Welcome back. The Namibia Revenue Agency, NamRA, is pleased to announce the planned release payment of tax refunds scheduled for 15 December 2023, benefiting 63,150 individuals, salaried persons and pensioners. This significant initiative underscores NamRA's commitment to delivering efficient and timely services to taxpayers. In a drive to address the backlog of pending refunds, NamRA has determined risk parameters and meticulously calculated the threshold per taxpayer, resulting in 91,092 returns being processed, valued at over 65 million Namibia dollars, spanning from 1991 to 2023. To share more on this is Chief Strategic Communications and Support Engagements at NamRA, Yarukeekuro Ndorokaze. Say good evening and welcome.
Good evening. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Just to start with, talk to us about the specific measures NamRA's implemented, to expedite this tax refund process and address the backlog of pending refunds.
Well, in your introduction, you've actually covered about 70% of our media release, so there isn't much for me to say. But I must indicate that one of the things that has been brought to our attention through our various stakeholders' engagement, and previously we have spoken about some of those engagements that we have had, as well as our call center, it was always pointed to the fact that there was a backlog on audits, pending audits, and people expecting that, because subsequent to an audit, you'll be able to tell whether what has been paid is the right amount, or is it right, there's still an amount that the taxpayer needs to pay, or there's been an overpayment by the taxpayer, and therefore there must be a refund. Now, for as long as you have not dealt with those pending audits, you would not be able to know that. So what we needed to do as an institution is really look at ways as to how we can fast-track the auditing of returns that have been submitted. Right. And that is really what we have been done. In addition to carrying out the normal operations, we then put a team together that was looking at this, ensuring that we are able to expedite this process. And the category of taxpayers that we're talking about are those salaried individuals and pensioners. Because of the low risk that is associated with them, it makes it very easier for you to expedite the auditing of them and being able to tell whether they are due for a refund or not. As you would have seen from what you have presented in your introduction, about 91,000 returns were processed, and only about 63,000 would then attract the need for a refund. And that tells you that there are so many others, about 30,000 or so, which have not been due for a refund.
Talk to us about how NamRA conducts, risk assessments to ensure a general acceptable risk threshold in the tax refund process. Well,
with regards to the category of taxpayers we're talking about now, this would be salaried individuals. What it then means is that their employers would have submitted a summary recon of what has been deducted through the year and what has been paid to the taxpayer. The taxpayer would also be submitting the Pay-as-you-earn 5 document that we normally talk about. Others are referring to it as the pink document. That together you would be able to tell what has been earned. But subsequent to that, a taxpayer might have also taken out policies and the like, which they are then allowed to deduct from their gross income, which is then not subjected to tax. And that is the portion that in most cases, in terms of the category of taxpayers we're talking about, would result in them being due for a refund. So there's a minimum risk involved in this. When you compare to other, for instance, for companies as well as provisional taxpayers, the risk there is different. And that's why in this respect, we were able to deal with the number that we have dealt with, but it's a continuous process. It's a process that is ongoing, that has not been concluded. But we are happy to say that of the backlog that has accumulated to this point, a significant number to the number that we are pointing out, that 90,000 that has been processed, and we are happy to announce that.
Fantastic. Provide more detail for us, Yarukeekuro, on the innovative measures employed by NamRA for the automated refund process.
Yes, and that is now, once the audit has been done, what is it that you're going to do now? You would know, the history would tell us that in the past, refund would then be processed as a check that would be made out and somebody would come and collect. No need for all of that. Once the refund has been done and your bank details are up to date, all that is then done is really just the release that we are doing tomorrow, which should then be reflecting in the accounts of the various taxpayers during the course of next week. And that then allows us to ensure that that payment itself is done almost seamlessly.
And what criteria are considered to determine the lowest and highest refund amounts, ranging from 100 Namibian dollars to 101,000 Namibian dollars?
Okay, we are saying there is about over 63,000 taxpayers who stand to benefit from this. Now, in terms of, and you can already tell that about 30,000 of them would have been found that either they have paid the right amount of money or still additional money needs to be paid in respect of their tax liabilities. But for this portion, what we're saying with that point is to say from the 63,000 of taxpayers who are getting a refund, the person who's getting the lowest is $100, whereas the person who's getting the highest is $101,000. In between there then lies the rest of the group, the 63,150 taxpayers that we're talking about.
All right. And looking ahead, talk to us about what strategies NamRA plans to implement to further minimize delays in the tax refund process and enhance overall efficiency.
In our internal discussions, we say, looking at how we have been established and what we have been established for, there are principally two things that we are going to be judged on. It's the level of revenue collection. How much are we collecting in relation to previous years? But also the efficiencies that we introduce in that. That's one. If we do not get that right, if we do not collect tax that allows the state a greater latitude to be able to carry out the various projects and activities that it wants to undertake, then there would be question as to whether was it necessary to even create the Namibia Revenue Agency. So that's one. Two is the service experience. And in our case, which you will not find in many institutions that are created by statute, it makes it mandatory that we improve service delivery that we offer to our taxpayers and traders, whom we refer to as clients. Now, it is that point that we then need to improve. And this ties in with the experience that our people then get to experience when they transact with our various service offering. And that's why one of this is really speaks to that, to ensuring that going forward, we are able to ensure processes that when returns are submitted, people are able to know what their status is. And once they have known that there's a refund that is due to them, we are also then able to fast-track the processing and the payment of such refunds. And we've really been hard at work in ensuring that that happens. Now, what I'm saying is that as much as we have cleared the 90,000 that I'm talking about, it does not totally deal with what has now accumulated as a backlog.
Right.
But the future looks very bright. Very soon we would be able to tell and give figures as to what that backlog is in respect of, for instance, individual taxpayers. But we also need to talk about companies. We also need to talk about provisional taxpayers. We also need to talk about other tax types such as your VAT and the like. And that is, it only is an indicator that we are actually getting hold of what it is that we're dealing with. It has obviously taken time for us to get to where we are now, but we're happy that we are here at this point, and going forward, we're really confident that we would be able to offer the kind of service that we would want our taxpayers to experience. What we say, there are three key anchors for us. One is to ensure that there is relative appreciation of what the tax liabilities are, hence improve voluntary compliance. Two, once there has been greater appreciation, we must make it easier for people to comply. And this is based on the service offering, the various service points that we are extending to, and the various platforms through which taxpayers can transact with us so that they are compliant. And three, obviously enhance enforcement and compliance. And those are really the anchors that are informing the various steps that we are undertaking.
Fantastic. Well, on that note, Mr. Ndorokaze, thank you so much for being here this evening. Thank you for joining us.
Always a pleasure. And there has been many questions around from taxpayers as to, so what do I need to do to find out whether I'm due for a refund or not? That one is very easy. When you log onto your profile, as far as our integrated tax administration system is concerned, ITAS, it will be able to tell you whether you are due for a refund or not. If you are due for a refund, you need to do nothing. Provided, of course, you have provided us with your current banking details, that transaction will then be processed. If it happens that you have either changed banks or you have not provided any, we are calling on those to do so soonest. If you miss the deadline of tomorrow, those will still be processed, because in any case, refund is a daily operation for us. It's something that we do on a continuous basis. So if you miss this tranche of refunds that we're releasing, as soon as we get your details, we'll be able to have that processed and paid into your account.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for clearing that up, and thank you for your time.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Mr. Yarukeekuro Ndorokaze of NamRA speaking to us there. When we come back, it's time for us to almost round up